Coming up on WUFT Midday, a cold blast moves through north central Florida, opening shelters for those in need.
And the president's push for control over the nation's capital sparks major debate about the lengths of federal power.
And in New York, Luigi Mangione heads back to court in a high-stakes legal showdown. WFT Midday starts now.
You're watching WUFT Midday.
As you walked outside this morning, you probably noticed how cold it was. I know I needed an extra layer this morning. This is WFT Midday. I am Oriana Torre.
And I'm Tanya Fedak. We were under freeze warnings earlier in the day here in northeast and north central Florida, and that will continue into the weekend. UO forecaster Nicole Borman is live in the studio with more on how much longer the cooler temps will stick around.
That's right, guys, with certain areas dropping below the freezing point, which is 32 degrees, certain shelters have opened up for those in need. We're seeing in certain areas like High Springs, Bronson, even in Lake City in those upper 20s. Those temperatures are getting really cold right now, so be sure to stay warm outside. But right now in Gainesville, we're seeing some pretty clear skies. Look at that, no clouds in the skies over Century Tower or over the stadiums. Temperatures have picked up a bit into those lower 50s with some winds coming in from the north, giving us that cooler breeze. But those temperatures all over some of the central states and a majority of the East Coast are below freezing with those polar temperatures coming down towards us. But that's not the only thing that we're going to be experiencing. We're also experiencing some moisture being pushed out from the Gulf. I'll tell you more about how that'll be affecting us up here in north central Florida. But the temperatures right now are looking pretty nice. Look at that, mid-50s in Gainesville. We're seeing 58 in Bronson, 59 in Ocala, and those temperatures are only going to be getting warmer later on into the week. So I'll tell you more about how this mild week coming up, the rain, how it's going to be affecting South Florida more heavily, and the warm weather ahead later on.
If you do not have a place to stay with this weather conditions, the city of Gainesville has opened their cool night shelters. Officials say they will stay open until Saturday as long as overnight temperatures remain under 45 degrees. St. Francis House and Grace Marketplace are the two shelters open. Families and children are asked to go to St. Francis House, while individual adults can go to Grace Marketplace.
And it's been 1 month since President Trump took office, with the effects of his decisions and orders felt around the world. While here at home, thousands of government workers finding out they no longer have jobs, long-standing agencies closed, and protests grow as the president and billionaire Elon Musk reshape the government. NBC's Yamiche Alcindor gives us the recap of the last month.
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
President Trump took the oath of office just 1 month ago, setting off a dizzying series of executive orders and changes to the federal government.
And there is no denying this administration is off to a historic start.
The president has signed 73 executive orders, most of them focusing on government and foreign affairs, specifically immigration.
And we're trying to make our government smaller but much stronger. We offered deferred resignation buyouts to all federal workers.
Though there is no guarantee the workers will receive the money offered. President Trump also created the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE. And he has praised billionaire Elon Musk and DOGE for moving quickly to shrink the federal workforce.
I was fired yesterday morning,
leading to nationwide protests. Musk has essentially dismantled entire agencies and cut programs that don't align with the president's agenda. And at the height of tax season, thousands of terminations are coming to the Internal Revenue Service.
There's a lot of anxiety.
I'm particularly concerned about refunds. As the ranking Democrat on the Senate Finance Committee, we focus on services to taxpayers, and I'm very concerned about the possible delay in refunds.
With DOGE staffers working inside the Pentagon, the Defense Department says Secretary Pete Hegseth is ordering officials to find a way to cut the budget by $50 billion. The swift moves bringing change and confusion to President Trump's first month in office. In Washington, Yamiche Alcindor, NBC News.
On Thursday, the U.S. Senate voted to approve Kash Patel as FBI director in a mostly party-line vote. Cheryl Hoover has more on the controversy surrounding the confirmation.
The yeas are 51, the nays are 49. Thursday, the Senate voted to break a filibuster on Kash Patel's nomination to lead the nation's top law enforcement agency. Patel's nomination for FBI director had faced intense scrutiny from Democrats. Senate Democrats held a block Kash Patel press conference in advance of the vote Thursday morning to voice their concerns.
He has neither the experience, the judgment, nor the temperament to lead the FBI.
The FBI already in turmoil. Earlier this month, details on more than 5,000 of the FBI's 38,000 employees was submitted to the DOJ, identifying persons who worked on the January 6th Capitol riot investigations. Democrats had warned that Patel could use the position to seek retribution against Trump's perceived political enemies.
Well, it's the end of the FBI as we know it.
During his hearing, Patel said there would be no politicization at the FBI and no retribution action. After the confirmation Thursday, he released a statement saying, quote, "My mission as director is clear. Let good cops be cops and rebuild trust in the FBI."
The confirmation is confirmed.
Two Republican senators, Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski, citing Patel's prior political activities, joined Democrats in voting against Patel's confirmation Thursday, perhaps voting their conscience. I'm Sherelle Hubbard reporting.
And they are arguing that they are calling it an enemies list is a mischaracterization. And Senator Mitch McConnell announced he will not seek re-election in 2026, concluding his extensive Senate career. WFT's Gabe Vargas is live in the studio to tell us why his time in politics is coming to a close.
On the day he turned 83, former Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell announced his retirement on the Senate floor. McConnell has served for the past 40 years. He's one of the most consequential senators in GOP history, shaping the Republican legislative identity in an image of his own. He's led the party since 2007. McConnell also led the line of GOP defense against the Obama administration and was critical in elevating Donald Trump to the presidency. He oversaw the confirmation of 3 justices to the Supreme Court and seating 234 federal judges during the Trump term.
The honor of a lifetime. I will not seek this honor an 8th time. My current term in the Senate will be my last.
McConnell leaves a complex legacy in his wake. The longest-serving Senate party leader in U.S. history declared that he has unfinished business, planning to fulfill his current term until January 2027. Live in the studio, Gabe Vargas, WUFT News.
Developing news from the White House, which could have a direct impact on the district's 700,000 residents. In his most forceful comments since the inauguration, President Trump told reporters he wants the federal government to take control of D.C. The president made the remarks on Air Force One last night.
Should govern D.C. I think the federal government should take over the governance of D.C. and run it really, really properly. And I like the mayor. I get along great with the mayor. But they're not doing the job.
Under terms of the city's Home Rule Authority, Congress vets all D.C. laws and can outright overturn them.
Pope Francis is recovering in a Rome hospital after coming down with pneumonia in both lungs. The Vatican says he's doing a little better and his heart is working just fine. Despite being hospitalized, he's still up, eating breakfast, and getting some work done. Italy's Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni visited and said he was alert and in good spirits.
Luigi Mangione, accused of murdering United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson, is set to appear in Manhattan court today. It will mark the first time he has appeared before a judge since he pleaded not guilty to murder charges in his arraignment. Mangione is accused of killing United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson last December. He led authorities on a national manhunt for nearly a week. The judge is expected to ask both the defense and prosecution for an update on exchange of evidence. A trial date could be set at the hearing.
After a 6-month investigation into a report of child pornography, detectives in Alachua County have made an arrest. The investigation into this incident led detectives to a Gainesville home belonging to Raymond Logan. Investigators say that Logan shared multiple inappropriate pictures of children on the internet. He was arrested earlier this week and booked into the Alachua County Jail.
If there isn't an ICE raid at an Alachua County public school, teachers now have to comply. The new policy was sent out to teachers in an internal memo and discussed at the school board meeting earlier this week. ICE agents have the power to interview and remove students with or without a warrant under the federal immigration law. If an agent wants to remove a student, school employees now have a list of guidelines to follow. These include requesting officer identification, contacting the student's parent, and being present during the student interview. University of Florida professor Rafael Solórzano says the district's new policies are unacceptable.
We must protect our students and families from policies that revert to thinly veiled racist policies that pushes them into the shadows or hiding.
ACPS does not collect information about a student's immigration status.
Gainesville Regional Utilities mistakenly overbilled some customers by up to 50% this month. Affected residents were surprised to find significantly higher charges on their bills. GRU says the error is due to a technical glitch in their billing system, and the utility company is working to correct the issue and will issue refunds to those impacted. Customers are encouraged to review their statements and contact GRU with any concerns.
An increased law enforcement presence is happening at Midtown tonight. Gainesville and Santa Fe police departments will be at their alcohol awareness detail. The event is tonight from 9 p.m. to 2 a.m. in the Midtown area. They will have educational outreach and a chance to measure your breath alcohol concentration. More likely than not, there might be gators crawling under your roads and home right now. That's according to a UF study the New York Times released this week. A group of UF researchers discovered gators using Gainesville sewer systems to travel, but gators aren't the only ones using the underground system. The report says around 35 species uses the tunnels, including birds, bats, and raccoons. Lead researcher Alan Ivory says some animals got in the way of the study.
Raccoons would regularly climb the ladder within the sewer, grab the camera, and yank it off. They're only attached via a magnet, and so as long as they can pull with about 15-20 pounds of force, then they can steal my camera.
Ivory says sewers could be updated to fit the needs of animals who use them. He says ramps near storm drains will help animals escape after getting washed away during storms.
And now let's take a look over at I-75 headed north toward Gainesville during this chilly afternoon commute. We can see traffic is light and flowing steadily, and we've got Nicole Borman in the studio with us who can tell us how long the cold weather will last.
That's right, guys. We're getting a colder blast from the north hitting us, mainly in those central and eastern states. Much colder temperatures than we usually see, especially over here in the center. Now let's take a deeper look on how that's affecting those states. Look at that, single-digit temperatures earlier. We were seeing even temperatures in those negatives, but it's still affecting us here back at home. Let's take a closer look at that. Look, in those lower to mid-30s is where we're seeing right now. Below freezing temperatures in certain areas. Like we said before, we are experiencing a lot of shelters opening up for those in need on the street that do want to stay warm, but as of right now the lows are sitting in those lower 30s. Look at 33 in Gainesville, 35 in Ocala, 28 in Lake City, even in those 20s. Look at that. But as we continue on, we're going to be seeing some nicer weather later on into the day and even later on into next week. Look at that, not a cloud in the sky over Century Tower and over the stadium. Temperature right now in those low 50s with some cooler breezes coming in from the north at around 16 miles per hour, but it's cooler temperatures. But later on into the day, we could be feeling some warmer temperatures. We're going to be seeing those 55 in Gainesville, 59 in Ocala, 60 in the Villages. So those mid to upper 50s and in those low 60s. But later on to the week, we could be seeing even in the 70s. But until tomorrow morning, we're still seeing those 30s. We're going to be seeing 38 in Gainesville, 40 in Ocala, 43 in the Villages, mainly ranging out into those low to mid 30s and those lower 40s. But we're going to be tracking how it's going to be affecting us later on into the week. Right now, we're not seeing much disturbance off into the East Coast, but we are going to be seeing how this high pressure system is going to be keeping us dry later on into the weekend and into next week. We have a Gulf Stream right now pushing over a lot of moisture over into Florida. Should be affecting more into the south, not us here up in the north, but let's get a better look at how that's going to look like. We're going to see as that high pressure system pulls down into the south, creating almost a barrier over us as that low pressure system pushes out all that moisture with all that rain, keeping it into the south, keeping it more into South Florida and keeping us dry up here. So we might be experiencing like a drizzle maybe, but nothing too serious. But if you are experiencing a trip down to South Florida, I would pack an umbrella. Look at that, those temperatures are going to be dropping later on into the week. We're going to be seeing those 50s and then out back into the 30s tonight. But for your weekend, those temperatures should be looking more into the 60s, into those upper 60s, maybe into the low 70s. Now for the rest of your week, for your 7-day outlook, we're going to be seeing those low 60s rise up into the 70s with the low staying consistent in those low 50s and upper 40s with a slight chance of rain on Thursday.
Now let's head over to our Noticias partners for a look at today's top stories for our Spanish language audience.
Hola, soy Gabriela Valdes con tus noticias en 90 segundos. Costa Rica, Honduras y Panamá están recibiendo gente deportada desde los Estados Unidos. Los vuelos de deportaciones bajo la administración de Trump son cada vez más. Países como Panamá han recibido inmigrantes hospedándolos en hoteles de la ciudad. En Costa Rica, los inmigrantes que optaron por retorno voluntario pueden quedarse en hoteles y regresar a sus países en vuelos comerciales. Costa Rica también está trabajando para que todos los inmigrantes puedan regresar a países seguros si no pueden volver a su país natal. 6 carteles de drogas mexicanos forman parte de la lista de organizaciones terroristas extranjeras. La presidenta mexicana Claudia Sheinbaum dijo ayer que propondrá reformas constitucionales para proteger la soberanía de México después de que el presidente Donald Trump asignara a 8 carteles de Latinoamérica como organizaciones terroristas extranjeras, entre esos 6 mexicanos. Esto ha generado preocupación en México de que esto puede ser un paso preliminar para intervenciones militares. México no va a permitir la participación externa en investigaciones o procesamientos sin la autorización y colaboración del gobierno mexicano. ESPN y la MLB se separan y terminarán su asociación de décadas después de la temporada 2025. ESPN ha transmitido juegos de las grandes ligas desde 1990, pero la liga dijo en un comunicado que están en desacuerdo por la forma en que ESPN ha reducido su cobertura de béisbol. ESPN defendió su cobertura de la liga y dijo que esto es agradecido por la larga relación con la liga. Sin embargo, ESPN tiene una cláusula de exclusión voluntaria en el contrato y decidió ejercerla. Ahora la MLB estará explorando oportunidades para un nuevo acuerdo con otras opciones de programación deportiva para la temporada 2026. Esas fueron tus noticias de 90 segundos. Gracias por sintonizarnos.
A lawsuit was filed against Target on Thursday by Florida's Attorney General and the group America First Legal. Target was once a leading advocate for diversity, equity, and inclusion in the business world. However, last month, the retailer rolled back its DEI policies. The lawsuit claims Target concealed the financial risk of its DEI programs and its 2023 Pride Month merchandise collection. The suit alleges fraud for the backlash to Pride Month in 2023. So far, Target has not commented on the lawsuit.
President Trump is reportedly considering a plan to move the U.S. Postal Service toward privatization. According to multiple reports, the Trump administration plans to fire members of the independent government board that oversees the USPS. The Washington Post reported Trump plans to disband the Postal Regulatory Commission. According to the Post, he would put the agency under direct control of the Commerce Department and Secretary Howard Lutnick. Neither the White House nor the Postal Service have commented, but a White House official denied Trump's plans to sign the order.
Now let's get over to WFT First at 5 anchor Mar Roach with a look at what's coming up on First at 5 on Channel 5.
Coming up on WUFT's First at 5, we'll bring you a variety of stories today. First, Gainesville City Commissioners discuss funding for downtown streetery, plus the public's concerns about Rawlings Elementary's year-long program, and a cemetery grave app. All that and more at 5.
Before we go, one last check on the weather.
Well, that's right, guys. Even though we're experiencing those colder temperatures right now, it's going to be warming up a lot next week. Look at those temperatures up into those mid to upper 70s with those low 40s or those low 50s and upper 40s throughout the week as our lows. Feeling like right now those are our highs, so it's going to be a nice change of pace. So we're going to be seeing that and more next week.
Thanks for joining us for WFT Midday. We are back here tomorrow for another edition.
We will see you later today for First at 5 on Channel 5. Have a great afternoon.